Today we take a look inside Poo Tang Reefs in Port St. Lucie, Florida, where aquaculture meets artistry.
So this is our 400-gallon LPS tank. A lot of stuff that you're seeing in here is just, it couldn't fit in there. We got more. So where should we go next?
All right, so we're here at Poo Tang Reefs. Let's knock on the door and see if anyone's home. Come with me as we explore the systems, the corals, and the dedication that it takes to bring these reefs to life.
Welcome. How you doing?
So we're here with Terrell of Poo Tang Reefs. Amazing setup, so many different tanks. What are we looking at behind us?
So this is our SPS display system, which is our 300-gallon SPS display that we got going on. It's about 3 years old, and it's just basically SPS dominant with a few LPS in there. But this is, like I said, this is what we started with. And then as the system has grown over time, we have tacked on frag tanks to the systems and everything, and it's become basically working display as well as a grow out system with the extra tanks that are attached to it. But this is actually, we've gone through a few iterations to get to this point of this system. But like I said, we had a 125 over there, and then we actually have we used to have a big wall that separated both rooms. And then we ended up having a 180-gallon system that was in here with a couple more tanks that stacked up. Eventually that all got torn down, moved out to the garage as the growout system, and then we basically tore the wall and then put the system up in its place. And so this has been kind of, it's changed over time. It originally started as just a display because, before we ever got into doing this as a business, we were just straight hobbyists. And, over time it's kind of grown and grown. And like I said, we've added to it, and now it's become a major part of our whole entire operation that we got going on. This is an 8-foot by 2-foot by 30-inch tall Starfire on all sides. It's a custom built tank. And actually we got this used from somebody else. Well, sort of used. It was, he bought it, intended to set it up, and it was a really big house that he had it in, and never set it up and left it in his garage for like 5 years. So we used to do services for him, and we actually traded a bunch of coral for this thing. So he ended up getting a bigger tank, and then I came across this, and this has been a beautiful one that we've had ever since. So we have all the mother colonies in the display. And then when we come over to these systems, again, this is all the same system. So all the extra mother colonies, different colonies, backup colonies, frags, basically just everything, a combination of everything that we grow out in our collection is all kind of strewn throughout the tanks. So a lot of stuff that you're seeing in here is just, again, just different colonies that I couldn't fit in there. I have, seconds and thirds, other pieces that were in various stages of growing. But the whole goal is, since we're all aquaculture here, is to, grow these out long-term, keep the mother colonies as long as we possibly can, get multi-generation in on the stuff that we're selling. That way it's, it's straight tank raised. And then that way we bring these to a production level. That way I can cut from multiple colonies, so I can maintain the health of the colonies as well as crank out a good amount of coral and keep, customer base happy and everything else, and keep up with demand. So it's a balance of enjoying it as a hobbyist still, and not like snipping everything down to little bitty pieces, and still maintaining the business aspect of it.
Nice. And everything, like, we'll get to the display in the kitchen, but everything is it's like a piece of art.
Yes.
In here.
Yes.
Everything is like really beautiful and well balanced. Your rock work, the way the corals are laid out themselves.
Appreciate it.
Looks really nice.
So when we're artists, man. Before I was in the Marine Corps before this, and I used to fix jets, and then got out and I did laser engraving for many years. So that was like a form of artwork that was it's therapeutic, and it was fun to do. And my wife, she paints also, and so we paint together, and everything that we've done has always been a form of art. And I love my tattoos and everything. So I look at that as it's always an expression of how you can create something beautiful. And then these are all my working forms of art, where my living art projects. And my wife, her one requirement when I was doing this was, it can't look like crap. It's got to be nice looking if we're going to be doing something like this and people come over. It's got to look good, and it can't be just can't be half done, pretty much. Yes, so it's all plumbed to this sump right over here, yep. So it's a 250 gallon tank right here. So it's 6x3 by, I believe, 24. And again, got that one used off of Facebook Marketplace. It was set up as a freshwater tank before and got a great deal on it. And then the tank to the right is 135 gallons. It is a 6x3 by, I want to say 12 inches. And this is, it's a shallow coral run, but basically we're using this to, a few extra colonies and then, extra frag space. So as you can see, we're kind of in the middle of fragging sessions. So we'll have those rows filled up probably by the end of this week and then just keep rotating them through. So being able to have the space is nice because if I can keep, multiples, you can see rows and rows of frags that way, we give them time to actually, grow out sometimes and crust the plug and actually become a stabilized, heck, mini colony sometimes. And sometimes, I will say, like, as we've gotten busier over time, like the production level is difficult, I will say, to try and balance where I like my colonies and I want to be able to enjoy a large colony and then keeping up with nice size cuts for customers. Sometimes I have, realized where, I've made smaller cuts or some people just, they don't mind having fresher cuts, but it's balancing that ethical aspect of it of like, maybe at some point I'll slow down, I'll pull back a little bit, maintain the health of the colonies rather than just, it's not about money. It can't all be about money. And if you're making it about money, then you're losing what this hobby is meant to be about and what we're doing it for in the first place. And it's the animals,
Yeah, this SPS coral, because this is considered like the peak, like the most difficult, like expert level corals. Do you find them to be difficult and picky?
So I'll say it like this. I think everybody has the idea that SPS is difficult, and it's not. And the reason I say is because when you're keeping coral, everything benefits from stability. So no matter if you're keeping LPS, SPS, or anything in between, you want stability in your tank. So stability is going to benefit LPS just as much as it benefits SPS. I think people want to go with easier stuff because they want to have a little bit more room for error. Sometimes the SPS just gives you a little bit less room for error because they're a little bit more finicky to large changes. That being said, as long as you still hit those, I call it, those foundational aspects of reefing, as a good friend of mine said, the pillars of reefing. You hit the flow correctly, you hit chemistry correctly, you hit lighting correctly, and you can generally, have some of those pillars missing here and there and not have a thriving reef. But the more pillars that you have in that foundation, that's what overall brings a thriving reef together and being able to keep this stuff. So, and again, I think there's so much information out there that a lot of people, they get overwhelmed and they get good information, but they don't know how to hold it in a correct context to be able to understand how these things, affect each other. So they'll get caught up on one thing, one number, one aspect. And I'll admit, I've done it, man. When I first got in, had no idea what alkalinity was. I just thought calcium was the thing to go. And then I learned about alkalinity. So I started chasing alkalinity and keeping that stable. Then I learned about phosphates and, so it's been a whole process of, oh, this is important. Oh, this is important, and I've come to it over time of learning the hard way. I kill stuff by accident, not meaning to. And then I'm like, it makes me want to try harder to actually keep it. But again, back to the original, no, it's not hard to keep this stuff. If you're looking for the aspect of stability always, I think it's easier to grow SPS because as long as you just give them high flow, a good amount of light, and you don't really have to do anything else to them besides just let them sit, and then keep your chemistry stable. Honestly, I have more issues with torches than I do with SPS.
Really?
Honestly, yeah, because I feel like torches are very bacterial sensitive.
The brown jelly.
Yep. And so, it's just those kind of things. Is torches are made to be thought of as like a beginner coral, and I don't think that's a beginner coral now as I've experienced them over time, because again, like they act the same way as my SPS. If I have a little bit of a swing in something or something falls out of parameters, they're the first one in my LPS tank to let me know by the skin rips up on the sides, brown jelly takes off. So or if you bring something in that has maybe a bacteria that they don't like, they can turn around and easily just start closing up, getting brown jelly, and you're wondering like what the heck is going on. And bacteria isn't one of those things you can really quantify or see, and you're almost working in abstracts of trying to understand like, hey, if in concept bacteria functions like this and I see the torch, you know, acting like this, is the bacteria doing X, Y, Z to this, you know? And so you got to kind of start really digging hard into it. That's why I say, you know, I think torches are harder than SPS sometimes. This stuff has become easy to me. Yeah. And I think it can, it's in the realm for everybody to keep. There's just certain aspects, like we'll start people off with like beginner pieces, like really, really hardy pieces, and then slowly work them up. Say, hey, try a green slimer. And if a green slimer works, you know, hey, let me try you this piece. And hey, if this piece works, I can move you up to this piece, you know, but keep it, you know, as long as you show success in these specific pieces, I know that generally opens you up to the next, you know, the next aspect of it, so.
So this is all SPS, and then you have LPS over there.
Correct.
So keeping them separate on purpose is probably another key to success as well.
You can do mixed reefs. Like I said, man, my first reef was a mixed reef, and the only reason I've got to doing this was more for, I've gotten in this too as a business, obviously, and you know, even as a hobbyist beforehand, but I wanted to keep the nicest stuff, so I figured in my mind, if I'm going to attempt to keep the nicest stuff within those species, why not make the correct biome for it? That way, I have a tank specific for Aquapora. I have a tank specific for, you know, LPS, you know, like low light, low flow, instead of having to shove a bunch of torches in an SPS system and then I have polyps ripping off because the flow is too high and then it's landing on my acro colonies and burning them. You know, it's finding the balance. So I can do it. I have done it, but I choose not to at this level just because, you know, I can have separate tanks, you know, so.
Yeah, it makes it easier to troubleshoot things too and work on stuff.
100%. Yeah, that way I'm not having to fight against, you know, balancing, keeping the SPS and LPS happy, because sometimes they do, you know, one lives at, you know, 10 meters of water, one lives at 40 meters of water. So, you know, it's realistically, you got to kind of put that into an expectation when you're putting it in a 2-foot box. You know, it's hard, it's difficult. So kudos to anybody that can rock a mixed reef. You know, it's a work of art in itself.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And talking about water chemistry and balance, keeping your parameters stable, is that something that you discover as you're setting up the tank, like what parameters you want to keep, or do you pick a number and you go for that number and you keep them at that level?
So yeah, I was actually just having a conversation about this. Somebody kind of got frustrated. We were doing a live and somebody mentioned like, oh, I was told this number. And I think they were told a specific number, not realizing that, okay, so let's say the answer to that, pick a number or a small range and stick within that window. Don't try to freak out if you don't hit a specific number. My systems, like let's say for alkalinity, bounce between 7.5 and 8. If you know, you look at, they tell you alkalinity is good between 7 and 12. And I just picked that number because to me, I don't want to get alkalinity burn on some of the pieces. And I think it makes the water a little bit, you know, I'd rather run a lower alkalinity. I feel like it's easier on my corals and they still get amazing growth and coloration out of it. And it keeps me off that high level of going too high and, you know, really, you know, harming them. Also, it keeps me from that level of going way, way, way too low. And I've had times where my system has just gone through a growth spurt and all of a sudden it's been at 7.5 and then it just totally dips down. And it's the same thing with like the phosphates. I try to keep my phosphates around 0.1. Sometimes it goes a little bit lower, sometimes it goes a little bit higher, but as long as I'm within a window, I'm generally keeping that stable. And as long as I'm doing those movements slow enough, I'm not too stressed about it. It's when you accidentally dump a whole thing of food in there and your phosphates go from 0.1 to 0.3 or 0.4, you know, it does it happen in one day or does it happen in 3 weeks? You know, you got to kind of look at the coral can adjust. They just do adjust slowly sometimes. So you can shock them, you know. Yeah. So, but yeah, we just kind of shoot for, just stay, you know, pick a number you're happy with, and then just kind of try to keep that number. And then for, like I said, our dosing, the way I've always done it is, hey man, if I do a test, before I do automation now, I run AquaWiz, I used to run Tridents for a long time. But you know, realistically, I used to just keep a handbook
and I would test all my stuff, and I would keep the dates of it, and I would keep the amounts that I was dosing. So if I tested on Monday and I was dosing 10 milliliters and it came out to 8, and then by Wednesday, 2 days later, it's to 7.5 now, I know that 10 milliliters is no longer keeping it at 8. So now I bump it, I just kind of walk up my numbers. So now I just increase it to 12, increase it to 15. And when I finally start seeing that trend come back up and stabilize at a number, that's where I know that I'm giving the system back what it's using. So that's kind of been my thing. I try not to math it too much and think too much into it. It's just more, doing the testing and making small incremental adjustments to get back to that level. And again, sometimes my tanks start to just dip, or something happens. I shock the tank, I do something stupid, and all of a sudden the growth stops, and then my alkalinity slowly starts rising. So I have to start backing off my dosing, and basically to try and keep that level stable, But and I do have fail safes in my automation to where it'll shut off my dosing if it reads over a certain amount. So just things like that's how we're able to get the stability aspect of what we got going on.
Very cool. And so take us through the filtration, because I feel like that can be a burden on people too. So at this high level, what do you got running down here in the sump?
So I've always reefed with sumps. I know everybody does, anybody can do different amounts of like AIO, all sorts of stuff, but I've always reefed with sumps. I've done custom sumps myself for a long time. I've built my own sumps out of, 90 gallon, 125 gallon tanks and I got them seriously sitting out in the back right now, just taking up, space now, but I've designed myself my own sumps. So what we got is Coral Reefs. They're here out of Florida. They've done actually all of our sumps for us here, but they're all acrylic. And so basically the way we have it set up right here is we have filter floss in the top. So if you can kind of see right here, it's nice and dirty, but it drips down into, I have live rock where I packed it all down here. And originally I was gonna do external skimmer on this system, so it was plumbed a little bit differently and drilled differently. So it's kind of adapted over time. But we have a next chamber in here in which I have my feed pump for my UV sterilizer, and then it kicks over into that sump. And I'm gonna redo this here shortly as well. I got a bigger sterilizer coming in, I'm gonna replumb it. But then we have I believe it's a Cone 6. I believe it's the big 12-inch head of the, what was it, Aquamax? Yep. So, I mean, this thing's a beast, and the person I got it from had done the aftermarket pump for it. So it's a beast of a pump. So this thing handles my whole system. And then it drains back into my last chamber in which I have my 2 return pumps. And again, I'm gonna be doing some upgrades on this system too, and adding in WYE valves to stop the backflow. That way it doesn't overflow my sump, because again, a lot of this was, I started with this system and this sump was sized to this system, and then I added this, and then I added this, and now it's like, now I gotta really go back to my foundational aspects and rework everything, The same way I've had to rework electricity, splitting circuits, that way I'm not popping circuit breakers, things of that nature. So there's a lot of thought and planning that goes into it, especially when you start adding and adding and adding,
Yeah, the huge volume of water, multiple tanks.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And then you got to think too, like you're risking all this high-end livestock in these tanks. And so, everything has to be, for me at least, buttoned up correctly that way, and then have my fail safes too. That way I'm still a human. I still screw up all the time. And especially when I'm juggling 20 things at once, running a full-time business doing this, like sometimes we're dog tired and you forget to fill up an auto top off or something like that. So just something so stupid could really bomb you out. But again, you always got to be making your process better, and anybody can do that at home. Take a look at your reef tank and then, hey, how can I improve this? And you're always, you can leave it, and people tell you, get your hands out of the tank and leave it, but there's a certain amount of tinkering. I feel like it's just it's growing as a reefer and learning. Yeah. There's a point where you should stop screwing with your tank, but like also learn. Yeah. Don't be afraid to kind of experiment, because realistically, I always tell people this, the cool thing about this hobby I've learned is that there's not a lot of official research and knowledge. I mean, there is, but like we are doing a lot of the experimentation and the learning in this hobby, and it's feeding over to the official side. And like I've been told, man, some of these scientists that do, that do their whole careers based off of this have no idea how to grow coral. And so when we were able to to kind of feed back and forth with these people, now we're learning how to breed, yellow tangs in captivity. Now we're learning how to spawn coral in captivity and actually collect and settle these things and regrow them back out. We're learning how to, splice coral and, make heat resistant coral and put it back in our waters and, repopulate our reefs. So it's like these things really do have an effect on the everyday life of, how our reefs are going. And as I said, that's why I take, it's fun. There's a lot more purpose in it too. So this is our 400-gallon LPS tank. It is 7 feet by 3 feet wide by 30 inches tall. It's also all Starfire glass, Peninsula. We got this one used on Facebook Marketplace. And we actually still do business with the guy that, he sold it to us and he got out of the hobby and then missed it and then got back into the hobby. So he's an awesome guy too. But we got this tank, and it's also 3 years old. So we actually put all these systems up kind of in rapid succession because first we had a 125 here, as I mentioned, then I had a 180, and then I had a 220, and then one day the 220 gallon had a crack in the brace and started splitting on the sides. So we had to take it down. We got this tank, and then this tank's been up for 3 years, and it's turned into, our display for growing out all of our LPS. So, and it's my wife's favorite tank too, so she likes it. So we do, it's LPS dominant. We do acans, torches, chalices, some zoas, alveopora, gonipora, some mushrooms in there, so bowerbankies, but basically just went all low light, low flow and made it, again, geared towards something that I didn't have to blast high light and high flow and keep aquapora happy, so.
Yeah, and it wouldn't be Poo Tang Reefs without a bunch of tangs in the tanks. So.
Oh yeah, I love my tangs.
What kind of tangs are we looking at in here?
So we got a variation of ones, man. We got yellow tangs, purples, bristletooths, orange shoulders, I'm just naming throughout the systems. But in this system, we actually have 2 yellow tangs, a purple tang, a bristletooth, an orange shoulder, and then a foxface, a magnificent foxface in here. And then a few, blotched anthea, a few big chromis that we have, and I think a ornate leopard wrasse we have floating around in there. And 1 lyre-tail anthea male. And then can't forget my special lady, my harlequin shrimp. She's floating around in there somewhere as well. Oh yeah, she's a champ, man. She's been finally getting over to the front half of the tank and tearing up some of these little starfish. But again, we've had them in the systems, man. There's only some species that are kind of a pain. Only a few species will kind of munch on coral, but the rest just generally munch on algae.
So what did you gravitate first in the hobby? Was it the SPS or was it like LPS?
100% SPS, man. One of my first corals, I got an ORA Red Planet Acropora, the tabling, and I killed it immediately. And it broke my heart, and then honestly it sent me down that path of like, all right, what happened? I was obsessed with it. I was heartbroken, and I wanted to learn how to keep them. So then I just basically started keeping SPS right off rip. And then we started adding stuff in, obviously, and had a mixed reef for the first tank. But yeah, it was SPS all the way, 100%.
So here at the LPS tank, is there a favorite LPS coral that you have in the tank?
Oh man, I gotta say, so more than likely I would say this one right here. Our Happy's Crazy Clown Chalice. So dude, it's been a fun one. I got that one from a small fingernail frag, and I've had it for years, and it's grown out, and the colors in it are just bonkers. It's like clown vomit, Yeah. And actually, which was crazy was it was that size about maybe 8 months ago, and it got stung really, really bad by a Jason Fox orange zombie chalice. It was super aggressive and tore up probably half that colony. And since it's grown back, the color has been better. So it's almost like, the damage to it actually prompted better color growth out of it, and it's turned into something just 10 times better than it was before. And so that's one of my favorite pieces that we have. So we do have some like amazing acans too that we've collected and kept. I love this, big old, everybody likes their jelly bean, but it's an impressive size, they call it our showstopper chalice. And the way we propagated it is keeping it that half blue and half red. But we have other mother colonies I can cut from and everything.
Yeah, it's pretty symmetrical too. It looks good.
And that's the nice part of like being able to, if you kind of like walk around and you see in other parts of the tanks, I have multiple backup colonies of it that I've kept, and it's all propagated with the same half and half. And what's actually cool is I did an experiment with that one to see if basically it would know itself if you split the two colors entirely and then put them back together, and it does. So if you basically, you can either take the cutting of that and get the red and the blue, and it'll keep that, it goes straight red to blue, right? If you take an entirely blue piece and an entirely red piece of that coral and you set them together, they'll grow back together, and at first they create a green boundary between each other, and then over a period of time the green boundary fades and it goes back together and it goes straight red to blue. So it knows itself, and it will grow back together. And so I've actually been able to continue to propagate it a lot easier, just doing, some cuts are just the natural, red, blue straight through, and then yep. And then I'm also able to create them in different patterns. So red, blue, red, blue, red, blue, red, blue, and then also taking we're messing with some other species that, some other corals that play nice with it and seeing if we can graft them together. So we're just messing around. If we got it, why not? So
yeah, absolutely, it's super cool. So with aquariums this large, are you also relying on water changes?
Yes, we are still relying on water changes. So we actually do reef moonshiners. Just to give you an idea, we do in the SPS systems, we do a blend of kalkwasser and two-part. So we do half kalkwasser, half two-part. We use the Reef Pro A and B. And that works awesome for our, for helping out with the trace elements a little bit. Then we do reef moonshiners to help out with the rest of the trace, and either monthly or bi-monthly ICPs, but we kind of got a rough idea what our dailies are now. So we've been doing it for maybe year and a half, 2 years maybe. We got our dailies pretty tracked down, so I can skip, a month or two and still generally stay within my parameters. But this system is entirely off of two-part. So it's running Reef Pro A and B, and then again we have the AquaWiz, have it set up. So what I'll use is the Apex. I use the Apex systems on everything, and we use the Apex dose for the dosers, and then we have the AquaWiz as an independent tester for it. So if you guys don't know about the AquaWiz, a great new product that came out. I've always used Tridents, and they've always used reagents and everything. But this actually uses no reagents. It does test every hour on the hour, and it tests it with pH. What it'll do is it'll take, I can show you that over there too, but it has actually, I'll walk you over and I'll show you right here. Basically, it's just this little box right here. So this is the AquaWiz. This is what we use to monitor the alkalinity in our system. So it is just an alkalinity tester, and it does have its own internal doser as well, which I don't use, but I have it set up on my regular dose. But what it does is it pulls water into this reference tank right here, and then it has two little cuvettes inside. And so it'll pull the reference water into one cuvette and then pull tank water into the second cuvette. And then it bubbles them up and then reads the difference in the pH. And the pH difference is the alkalinity that it gives you. And then it basically just kicks the water back into the tank. And the only way you have to calibrate it is, once, they recommend once a week, but I've actually let mine go over a month. And it really hasn't drifted. And you only got to test it with a HANA checker, and then, or any other kind of, reference checker. And then basically just put the number in on the app, hit calibrate, come over here, hit one button, and it calibrates in 20 minutes. So it is the easiest recalibration. All you got to do, if you really want to, is spot check it every once in a while. And again, the most I've had it drift over a period of time is leaving it is 0.5. So it was reading 7.5, and it was my HANA read 8, which 0.5 is really a negligent amount of number, when you're looking at a 2-month drift, and even my garage system, it's been a month and a half since I've recalibrated it, and it's still been spot on. I haven't had to do anything. So I've been happy with it, man.
Yeah, so what I'm gathering is keeping your perimeters stable is key, but also you're more keen to looking at the alkalinity, and that's kind of guiding your judgment on what to do.
Yes. Yep. Honestly, the only two things I really track is alkalinity and phosphates. My nitrates, I don't really track them too often. Only when I started having some imbalances did I start paying attention to them more. But in my experience, your nitrates will generally follow your phosphates and balance out. As long as you're just feeding correctly, you got a good amount of fish in your system, that kind of thing. Your phosphates are the big ones that can really hardcore swing and move and cause issues. The same thing with alkalinity is you just want to have your alkalinity stable. Make sure your calcium is good, make sure your magnesium is good, because they all have a play in how alkalinity responds. But that being said, it's not as important to track that on a daily basis. You can have calcium between 400 and 500 and be generally good. And my system's even dipped down into 380 sometimes, and I haven't really had any, you could tell where there was some imbalance where a little bit of my growth kind of, pulled back, but as soon as I rebalanced everything out with like magnesium and calcium, all my growth took off again. That's just, it's paying attention to just understanding, it's not, again, going back to it, pick a window and stick within it. Don't worry about chasing a solid number, but just generally go within your window. And if you fall outside of the window, slowly work yourself back. Don't make a snap judgment, because if they're still surviving in those subpar conditions, they've gotten used to it. Slowly get them back to better conditions, So that's what I would say for sure.
But this isn't everything.
No.
Definitely not everything.
We got more. We got more. So where should we go next? We got the wipe system or the growout?
Yeah, well, let's take a look at the new system.
All right, so this is Mrs. Poo Tang Reefs, my wife Lindsay. This is her brand new tank. Since so recently, this just is now, we're cycling it right now. It is being cycled with coral, so as you guys can see. I don't recommend this to everybody. And I will say, I guess I've been calling it as a little bit more of an advanced method, just because you do take the risk of killing the coral with putting it in a brand new tank like this. But I've actually seeded the tank with, so let me rewind. She had a 120-gallon tank before that was established for about a year and a half or so? About a year and a half. So it actually decided to leak about 2 months ago, which we tore everything down. We kept all the live rock. So everything was mature. And we kept all the live rock wet, and that way we kept the bacteria in it. And then as we got this system back up and running, I have the live rock from the previous system as well as pulled live rock from my other systems. So in the display, I actually do have, my own live rock from my other systems around the house. So it is helping bring the good bacteria into the system to stabilize it, but as well as just straight up creating a biofilm with the coral itself. So, you got to look at coral is its own bacteria. It has its own bacteria. And if you're going to add that extra diversity to the tank, it's only going to help it. But again, it's with risk, with a little bit of risk, because if something happens in your tank, if I get a bad bloom or anything, I got to be ready and prepared to handle that in the correct ways. So we're watching, Cool. So waiting for a little bit right now. It is a 250-gallon, actually. So we got a shout out to Joe from Glass Cages and the team over there at Glass Cages. This is a beautiful 250-gallon peninsula. It is 6 feet by 30 inches wide by 27 inches tall. It is Starfire all the way around. And they did such a good job on this. Concealed water line, smoked brace on the top, external overflow in the back, and then with the black, what do they call them? The seam guards. Yeah. And then again, we're running a lunar reef sump on the bottom, so that was actually a sister sump to the other one that's over there on the other system. And we're still running it in the same exact way. It's filter floss, skimmer section, live rock, and then return. And then the same thing, run an Apex, run AquaWiz on it, and then run 2-part for the dosing on this system as well, and then Meridians for the lights. And so we recently switched over onto a lot of the Meridians. I've generally run Radion Gen 4s and for a long period of time. and it was just balling on a budget. You know, it was easy to find on Facebook Marketplace. They're great lights still, and you can generally find them at good prices. And so again, I wasn't going to spend $1,000 on a brand new light. I've always done this on a budget. So people that think that you can't do it on a budget, we're living proof. We've done it, because again, I think we have one tank in this house that we bought new. So everything else is used. So, but you know, that being said, is be smart about how you reef, and you can do it. You know, you don't have to spend money. But again, there's a difference between, I had somebody say, if you can reef with money, it helps. You know, don't get me wrong, it helps being able to get certain equipment and everything, but it's not the end all be all. And again, you can use your brain to get around certain things and make stuff work, you know. But yeah, we've been recently working with reef breeders. So I came across their lights. I've been wanting to get them for a long time. We got them and then started buying more of them. And then now we are dealers for them as well. So, and again, I wouldn't recommend a product that I don't like. So really like their lights. They're great. We've started to implement them on the rest of the tanks, and we do plan on swapping the rest of our Radions and Quantabars over to Meridians. But I used to run Radions and T5s. Yeah. Ran T5s for years. And I gotta say, man, the LEDs do a good job. Yeah. I know there's the big debate out there, but LEDs do well. It's just understanding your spectrum, and then understanding, you know, how the coral reacts to it, and then, you know, kind of working with everything else, working your chemistry in, working your flow in, and it's not all just one thing. Recently, we've gotten on to doing Panarrays, and I know that the German company, I don't know if you heard about them, but so this big old pump over here, man, the Panarray Hydro Wizard. So these big dudes, they're out of, so the company is out of Germany, and again, they're expensive pumps. Don't get me wrong, the pumps themselves go for about $2,000. Okay. That being said, I've gone from having a lot of pumps to like one pump, you know, with one of these. They push water 8 to 10 feet very, very easily. So they're designed for larger tanks. Yeah. And again, like I kept running into issues with like your smaller pumps where they would only push 3 to 4 feet and then they would kind of circle back and everything. So I was running into flow issues with my SPS and detritus buildup and everything else. So, you know, I will say there is a certain aspect of you can pay for better quality sometimes in certain products. Sometimes you can chinch on it a little bit and save money, but like if you're getting into larger tanks, and I would say anybody who does have the larger tanks, your ECM 63s are well worth it. And we are looking to get the smaller ones, the ECM 42s, just budget, just haven't come across it yet, and just trying to prioritize things, but you know, that's one of those differences. And you know, you can go with something cheaper and do good, or if you're ready for that next level, you can go with something a little bit, you know, will cost more money, but you're getting into a whole different level of reefing.
Yeah. And to your point, like you're starting on a budget, that's 100% fine. Like
yes.
Work on a budget, work within your means, and then you just grow from there. So this has all been growing process for you guys.
Yeah.
Started small, and you added and built and built and built.
Yep. And we're not bougie either, man. I'm not, you know, I still run jabals all over the place. I just do them with a little bit of like, you know, brains. Like if you look at the system behind us, I got 4 jabals on this system. I got, or 5, excuse me. I got 4 direct flows and 1 cross flow in the back. And the way I run them is my 1 and 4 will turn on, so the opposite corners, and it will push the tank clockwise. And then 5 minutes later, it shuts off and reverses and goes counterclockwise. And then I could set that cross flow up to either go all the time, or I can set it at an odd time to where it's on for 5 minutes, off for 10 minutes, you know, whatever, just to break up the flow pattern in there. And then I could program it for they can all come on for 10 minutes every hour, and then it kicks up all the detritus and it's like an export. So it's like you don't have to buy an Ecotech and, you know, an MP60 or something like that and have all the controllability. It helps, but if you want to ball on a budget and do it a little bit better, you could even do this with those cheap, those timers, the programmable timers. Yeah. I did that for years. You know, you just got to go through and, you know, it might give you only 24 different things, like, you know, for 24 hours, right. But, you know, you gotta program it a little bit better, but it's possible. So balling on a budget. All right. This is.
Wow.
So this is our farm, pretty much. I mean, the whole house is a farm, but at this point. But yeah, this is our grow out here. So everything that we basically, I don't know, it's a mix at this point. So the LPS is all my extras, frags and everything else that we're growing out. And then the SPS is just all overflow of colonies, backup colonies, stuff that I don't have in that system. But we do a whole mess of trying to, like, again, redundancy. It's having multiple colonies. That way, if I ever have an issue in one system, I'm not totally bombed out. As well as if I ever lose something, I got a backup to a backup to a backup. And again, some of these pieces I've had for like 7 years. I've had since I've gotten in the hobby. So. Which is cool for me because, you know, I get attached to these pieces, and I'm like, and it's nice when I can sell them, like, this piece does awesome. It's not gonna die on you. Like, you can, you know, abuse the heck out of it and it's still gonna grow. Yeah. So, and that makes me, you know, I can stand by my coral knowing that I've beat it up, I've neglected it, as well as grown it out and cultured it correctly. And now I know I've created something good to go into somebody else's tank, you know, so.
And it has the story behind it.
Yes, yep. So, and again, this is all, everything you see, all these tanks are used. the only ones, I guess the tubs aren't used because I got those from, so those blue fiberglass tubs from Poutang Aquatics. And then the stand that we got was from Alufab. So that's actually, that's what we started making our stands with, and they're great, man, I love them. But yeah, that was, the left side was actually the most recent iteration to this system, was the addition, because we had just this tub before, and then did the stack and then replumbed everything. And at that same time, we just, I guess in this last year, installed the new sump as well. So again, sumps from Lunar Reefs. Then that's about 10 foot of sump right there. And we have them connected via 4 bulkheads. So it's all filtration in the front, filter floss, skimmer section with live rock, and we do have an external skimmer as well. And then our outgoing section right there. So that's our holding section for all our sales, and we ship out of there. And then our return. And then it runs on three separate lines. So I have one line that runs to my left side, one that runs to my center tank, and then one that runs to my right line.
How many like total gallons out?
About 1,200. 1,200 total gallons. A 350 gallon in the center, which was used, Facebook Marketplace, and I got that for free, actually. Thing popped up on Facebook Marketplace, somebody was getting rid of it, and I was lucky enough to be the first one to get over there and get it. So we resealed it. I resealed it all myself, ripped out all the silicone, and then redid it, and that tank it's built. So, and we've had it for years, and I have no idea how old it is, but we have a 300 gallon deep dimension in the back, as well as standard low boy up here. And then 180 gallon up top for the blue tub, and then 125 gallon underneath. And actually this system started as one blue tub, one frag tank, and then a horse trough as a sump. So when I say balling on a budget, I literally took one of those, you know, black horse troughs, a 4x2, and made it a sump and plumbed it together. So I've started with the basics, you know, and stuff that wasn't meant to be reefing, and I've built to this, and this is what we had.
So you're a huge collector of corals, and so from time to time you're going to get pieces that you love that you're not propagating already. So what does that look like as far as like quarantining those corals or quarantining pieces that you are selling?
So this is arguably, to that point, the most important tank in the house. This is our quarantine tank. It is a 70 gallon that's set up, you know, that we basically run everything through. So anything that we get immediately, I always dip it in potassium chloride. So everything gets potassium chloride dipped before it goes in there. And then everything gets periodically, weekly dipped for, excuse me, not dipped, but the system gets treated for black bugs with Interceptor. So we use the debug treatment from Collector's Corals. So if you guys are ever looking for that, that's actually great. It's a great product. It works well. But we will basically leave everything in quarantine. I'll treat once a week for the black bugs with the interceptor, as well as I'll dip weekly for potassium chloride to break any egg cycles. And we can leave it anywhere from 3 weeks to a month or longer, depending on what we want to do. But as long as it's to my idea of breaking egg cycles. So I try to shoot for at the very least 2 to 3 weeks, and at least get about two to three treatments in there. If I really feel rushed, I'll do 2 treatments, but it's we're making sure that, again, dedicated system, no bugs, no flatworms, no anything is going to get into the other system, as well as we do sometimes shoot with like ciprofloxacin for any bacterial infections or anything like that. That way we're also not bringing that bacteria into the main systems. We also quarterly, we will actually treat all of our systems in the house, in the growout systems, with interceptor as well. So with the debug from Collector's Corals, and it's expensive, but the reason we do it is I want to be 100% sure if anything makes it through this quarantine and it goes to my main systems, for whatever reason, I am still taking that extra step, and every 3 months or so, totally wiping the systems of any bugs that potentially may be in there, as well as we do fenbendazole flakes for that, any kind of acro-eating flatworms that may or may not get by. But again, since using the fenbendazole flakes, it's gone and it doesn't harm my system either. So I just kind of add it in there to feed the fish and kind of keep it in the system. And I haven't seen any negative effects, and I have not seen any flatworms, black bugs, nothing. Our systems are clean, healthy, and coral is good and ready to go to your tanks. So yeah, we are on, we do a lot of live sales. We're on TikTok, so if you guys want to come check us out there, we definitely do live sales every Thursday and Sunday nights at 8 p.m. to 12 p.m. or 8 to 12, at night, Eastern Standard Time. And then we'll basically just go throughout the system, show frags, show mother colonies, and then let everybody buy like that, and then we'll ship them throughout the week. We also do have our website, PooTangReefs.com, in which we have a lot of our collection up there. So I'm constantly trying to add, but there's a lot of stuff that I don't have on the website that we have around here. So you guys get a little bit of benefit when you guys do live sales with us, because it's almost like you get to walk in here and see us and come check it out. But we do have a couple other videos floating out there, as well as we do have our own channel on on YouTube as Poo Tang Reefs. And then we have an old video of that LPS system, and we're about to actually do an update of this system. So you guys actually got first shot. So you guys get the an update on all this, but we're actually going to do more breakdowns of the other systems as well on our own channel. So, but yeah, that's kind of where we're at. So TikTok, Instagram, PooTangReefs.com, YouTube. So we're out there, as well as we do the frag swaps. So next one you'll see us at is Wrap Orlando. We'll be back there.
Definitely check out Poo Tang Reefs at PooTangReefs.com. Follow them on TikTok, Instagram, all of their socials, and subscribe to them on YouTube. Is this one of the hardest working employees? Or the security guard? He's security.
He's the boss, he's security, he's the social team. He's the roadblock, the mascot.
Hi. How are you? And if you've enjoyed this video, then I know you're going to love this video right here. Click or tap your screen to watch that. Thank you so much for liking, commenting, and subscribing, and I will see you in the next one.